My name is Sarah Thompson, and at 25, I never expected my college graduation day would become the sweetest revenge. Standing beside my sister Maya in our matching caps and gowns should have been simply joyful, but years of unfair treatment had built up to this moment. I still hear their cold words echoing in my mind. She deserved it, but you didn't. The memory of that night when my parents decided only my sister was worth investing in still cuts deep. Before I reveal what made my parents' faces turn ghostly pale at our graduation ceremony, let me share how I transformed from the family disappointment into someone they never saw coming. I grew up in what appeared to be a normal middle-class family in suburban Ohio. Our two-story house with the white picket fence looked perfect from the outside, complete with family photos displaying forced smiles that hid the complicated reality within. My parents, Michael and Patricia Thompson, worked stable jobs, Dad as a financial advisor, and Mum as an elementary school principal. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable enough that financial struggles weren't supposed to be in my future. My sister Maya was 3 years younger than me, but somehow always seemed miles ahead in our parents' eyes. With her perfect auburn curls, effortless academic achievements, and natural charisma, she embodied everything they valued. From early childhood, the pattern was crystal clear. Maya was the golden child and I was the afterthought. I can still picture Christmas mornings, where Maya would unwrap the latest expensive gadgets, while I received practical items like school supplies or discount store art sets. Your sister needs more encouragement with her talents, Mum would explain when I questioned the disparity. Even at 9 years old, I recognised the unfairness, but learned to swallow my disappointment. School events highlighted the difference in their support. For Maya's drama performances, both parents would take time off work, sitting in the front row with flowers and recording every moment. For my science fairs, I was lucky if Dad showed up for 20 minutes during his lunch break. Science is important, Sarah, but Maya's artistic talents are special, Dad would say dismissively. She has real potential in the entertainment industry. The only person who seemed to truly see me was my grandfather, Henry. During our summer visits to his cabin, he would sit with me for hours while I conducted experiments with his old chemistry set. "You have a brilliant mind, Sarah," he would tell me. "Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The world needs people who ask questions and solve problems." Those summers with Grandpa Henry became my sanctuary. In his small workshop, I discovered books about famous inventors and scientists who had overcome obstacles. I began to develop dreams beyond just surviving my childhood, dreams of proving my worth through achievements my parents couldn't ignore. By high school, I had developed a resilient personality out of necessity. I joined every STEM club available and excelled in chemistry and physics, discovering a natural aptitude that surprised even my most supportive teachers. When I won the State Science Olympiad as a junior, my chemistry teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, called my parents personally to tell them how exceptional my work was. "That's wonderful," Mum said after hanging up the phone. "Did you remember to drive Maya to her audition? She has that callback for the community theatre production tomorrow." During my senior year, I worked weekends at a local tutoring centre to save money. Sensing I would need my own resources in the future, I managed to maintain a 4.0 GPA despite working 15 hours a week. Meanwhile, Maya joined the school's elite choir and instantly became the star, with my parents attending every concert and celebrating, each performance with special dinners. By senior year, both Maya and I were applying to colleges. Despite being 3 years apart, Maya had skipped a grade, putting us in the same graduating class. We both applied to the prestigious Northwestern University, known for its excellent pre-med and theatre programs. Against all odds, we both got acceptance letters on the same day. I still remember the excitement I felt, hands trembling as I opened that thick envelope. "I got in," I announced at dinner, unable to contain my joy. "Full acceptance to the pre-med program with a partial academic scholarship." My father glanced up briefly from his tablet. "That's nice, Sarah." Minutes later, Maya burst through the front door, waving her own acceptance letter. "I got into Northwestern's theatre program," she shrieked. The transformation in my parents was immediate. Dad jumped up from his chair. Mum rushed to embrace Maya. Suddenly dinner was abandoned for an impromptu celebration, complete with champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for us. We always knew you could do it. Mum gushed to Maya, seemingly forgetting I had announced the exact same achievement minutes earlier. 3 weeks later came the conversation that would change everything. We were having a family dinner, a rare occasion where everyone was present and devices were temporarily set aside. We need to discuss college plans, Dad announced, folding his hands on the table. His eyes, however, were fixed solely on Maya. We've been saving for your education since you were born. Northwestern's tuition is steep, but we can cover it entirely, plus your living expenses, so you can focus on your craft without worrying about money. Maya beamed with pride while I waited for my turn, assuming they had saved for both of us. The silence stretched uncomfortably until I finally spoke up. What about my tuition? I asked quietly. The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees as my parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. Sarah, my father said slowly, we only have enough for one of you, and Maya has always shown more artistic promise. We believe investing in her education will yield better returns for the family. My mother reached across to pat my hand in what she probably thought was a comforting gesture. You've always been more practical anyway. You can take out loans or maybe consider a state school first. Pre-med students do well at any good university. The words that followed burned themselves into my memory. She deserved it, but you didn't. Stared at them, unable to process the depth of their betrayal. Years of smaller rejections had somehow not prepared me for this ultimate dismissal of my worth. In that moment, something inside me broke completely, but also began to rebuild into something stronger. That night, after the devastating dinner announcement, I locked myself in my bedroom and allowed the tears I'd been holding back to finally fall. The unfairness crushed me. 18 years of trying to earn my parents' approval, culminating in this ultimate rejection. My 4.0 GPA, science competition wins, and acceptance to a prestigious university meant nothing to them. I had never been enough, and apparently I never would be. The next morning, puffy-eyed and exhausted, I confronted my parents in the kitchen before school. How could you have saved college money for Maya but not for me? I asked, my voice breaking, despite my attempts to stay composed. Mom sighed as she stirred her coffee. Sarah, it's not that simple. We had to make practical decisions with our limited resources. But I have better grades than Maya, I countered. I've been working part-time for 2 years while maintaining perfect academics. How is that not showing? Dedication? Dad closed his newspaper with a sharp snap. Your sister has always been focused on her passion. You've been too scattered with various activities in that job of yours. Besides, Maya has a clear artistic vision. Your science interests are admirable, but not particularly marketable. You never even asked about my plans, I whispered. Look, Mum interjected, we can help you fill out loan applications. Plenty of students finance their own education. The conversation ended there because they had already made their decision. In their minds, I was less deserving, less promising, and therefore less worthy of their investment. That weekend, I drove to my grandfather's cabin 3 hours away, seeking the only genuine support I knew. As I poured out the whole story, Grandpa Henry listened without interruption, his weathered hands clasping mine tightly. My brilliant girl, he finally said, wiping away my tears. Sometimes, life's most painful moments become our greatest catalyst. Your parents are wrong about you, deeply, tragically wrong, but you have something they can't recognize, unbreakable determination. Grandpa couldn't offer much financial help. His fixed income barely covered his own expenses, but he gave me something more valuable, unwavering belief in my potential. Promise me you'll go to Northwestern anyway, he said fiercely. Don't let their limitations become yours. That night, I made my decision. I would attend Northwestern alongside Maya, finance my own education, and graduate despite every obstacle they placed in my path. The next morning, I began researching scholarships, grants, work-study programs, and student loans with the intensity of someone whose life depended on it, because mine did. For weeks, I spent every spare moment completing applications. My guidance counsellor, Mr. Patterson, stayed after school to help me navigate the complex financial aid system. "I've rarely seen a student as determined as you," he told me as we submitted my 30th scholarship application. "That kind of drive will serve you well in medicine." I received several merit-based scholarships, but not enough to cover Northwestern's substantial tuition. With a combination of federal loans, private loans co-signed by Grandpa Henry, who risked his small savings to help me, and work-study programs, I pieced together enough financing for my first year. Next came housing. While Maya would live in the expensive on-campus dormitories paid for by our parents, I found a tiny studio apartment 40 minutes from campus with 2 other students I met through a university housing forum. Meanwhile, I applied for every job near campus. 2 weeks before move-in day, I secured a position at a busy campus coffee shop, plus weekend shifts at the university library. I also signed up for a work-study position in the chemistry department. The contrast between our preparations was stark. My parents took Maya shopping for new clothes, a laptop and dorm decorations. They helped her pack, arranged for professional movers, and planned an elaborate send-off party with family friends. I packed my belongings in second-hand suitcases and boxes scavenged from grocery stores. The night before I left, Mum awkwardly offered me some of her old bedding. It was the only acknowledgement that I too was starting college. On move-in day, my parents drove Maya to campus in our family SUV packed with her belongings. I followed behind in my decade-old Toyota that frequently overheated and made concerning noises when I accelerated. No one had offered to check it before my 3-hour drive to my new life. As we parted ways at the campus entrance, my parents, and Maya heading to her luxurious dorm, me continuing alone to my distant apartment, Mum called out, "Good luck, Sarah. I hope this all works out for you." The doubt in her voice only strengthened my resolve. This wouldn't just work out. I would make it triumphant. My new apartment was a shock. Peeling paint, unreliable heating, and roommates who were strangers. That first night, alone on my thin mattress with the sounds of traffic and neighbours arguing filtering through the walls, exhaustion overtook me. The enormity of what I was undertaking hit full force, and doubts crept in. Could I really work 35 hours weekly while taking a full pre-med course load? Would the constant financial stress crush my academic performance? Just as despair threatened to overwhelm me, my phone chimed with a text from Grandpa Henry. "Remember, my brilliant girl, diamonds are only formed under pressure. You're already shining." With those words in mind, I dried my tears and created a meticulous schedule mapping every hour of my upcoming weeks. Sleep would be limited, social life nearly non-existent, but my education and future would not be sacrificed. The financial aid office became my second home that first week. Ms. Garrett, the assistant director, took a special interest in my situation after hearing my story. "You're taking on an enormous challenge," she said solemnly. "But I've seen students in your position succeed before. Just promise you'll come see me before things get overwhelming." That promise would become a lifeline. In the months ahead, freshman year hit me like a hurricane. While most students were adjusting to college academics and enjoying newfound freedom, I was balancing 35 work hours weekly with a brutal pre-med course load. My typical day started at 5 a.m. with a 3-hour study session before rushing to my ID opening shift at the coffee shop. After classes, I'd head straight to the chemistry lab for my work-study position, often not returning to my apartment until after 1 a.m. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford. I learned to read textbooks during my commute, complete problem sets during lunch breaks, and record lectures to listen to while cleaning the coffee machines. Every minute was scheduled, every resource stretched to its limit. The contrast between my life and Maya's couldn't have been more stark. Through occasional text messages and social media posts, I glimpsed her carefree college experience, theatre productions, social events, and weekends visiting home for Mum's cooking. Meanwhile, I was calculating if I could afford both my organic chemistry textbook and groceries that month. Despite the grueling schedule, something unexpected happened. My pre-med classes weren't just manageable, I was excelling. Years of self-discipline and time management had prepared me in ways my classmates weren't. While they struggled with the demanding course load, I was thriving under pressure I'd learned to handle. Professor Williams, my organic chemistry instructor, stopped me after class one day during the second month. "Ms. Thompson, your lab reports are exceptional, particularly your analysis of complex molecular structures. Your insights show remarkable analytical thinking." For perhaps the first time, my struggles were translating into an academic advantage. My exhaustion was tempered by growing confidence in my capabilities. During this time, I was blessed with an unexpected friendship that would change everything. My roommate Jessica noticed my punishing schedule and began leaving homemade meals in the refrigerator with my name on them. One night, when I came home particularly exhausted, she was waiting up. "You can't keep going like this," she said bluntly, setting a cup of tea before me. "You'll burn out before organic chemistry gets really hard." When I explained my situation, her expression shifted from concern to indignation on my behalf. "That's beyond unfair," she declared. "From now on, consider me your college family." Jessica became my sanctuary in the storm. She edited my lab reports when fatigue made my words blur, created study guides for my exams, and fiercely defended my study time from other roommates' interruptions. When she discovered I was skipping meals to save money, she insisted on cooking. Enough for both of us, refusing any payment beyond help with her own assignments. "My parents taught me that family takes care of each other," she explained simply. "And sometimes the family we choose matters more than the one we're born into." Midway through sophomore year, disaster struck. The coffee shop reduced everyone's hours due to seasonal slowdowns, cutting my income by nearly 45%. My careful budget collapsed overnight. With rent due and a tuition payment looming, I faced my first major financial crisis. Panic rising, I remembered Ms. Garrett from financial aid and made an emergency appointment. After reviewing my situation, she offered both practical advice and unexpected assistance. "Your academic performance qualifies you for an emergency grant," she explained. "And Professor Williams has recommended you for a research assistant position in the chemistry department. It pays better than the coffee shop and looks impressive on medical school applications." The research position became another turning point. Working directly with Professor Williams, I began assisting with her study on drug resistance mechanisms in cancer cells. The flexible hours accommodated my class schedule, and the intellectual stimulation was a welcome change from making lattes. More importantly, Professor Williams took a genuine interest in my future. "Have you considered research medicine?" she asked one afternoon as we analysed cell culture data. "Your approach to problem solving is quite sophisticated for an undergraduate." The seed of an idea that had been germinating since high school began to take root. Using skills from my biochemistry classes and my work experience, I created a small tutoring service for struggling pre-med students. Working late into the night, I developed study guides and review sessions tailored to the specific challenges I had observed in my classmates. By the beginning of junior year, my tutoring business was generating enough income to allow me to quit the coffee shop. I maintained my research position more for the experience than the money. Between the tutoring income, research stipend, and loans, I was finally achieving a precarious financial stability. As my business grew, so did my confidence. In advanced chemistry classes, I began speaking up more, sharing insights from my research experience. Professors took notice, and classmates began seeking my advice on their projects. The girl who once felt invisible was becoming a respected voice in the department. Meanwhile, Maya and I maintained a cordial but distant relationship. She would occasionally invite me to theatre productions or campus activities, which I always declined due to work commitments. We rarely discussed our dramatically different college experiences, maintaining the surface-level conversation that had characterised our relationship since childhood. Our parents called Maya weekly, but reached out to me only for major holidays or family emergencies. During one Thanksgiving break when I couldn't afford the trip home, Mum texted, "We miss you at dinner, but we understand you're busy with your studies." The period spoke volumes about how they viewed my choices. Despite their continued dismissal, my academic performance was becoming impossible to ignore. I made the dean's list every semester, received departmental awards, and was invited to present my research at a national biochemistry conference. Each achievement strengthened my determination to prove my path was just as valid as Maya's, perhaps even more so. By the end of junior year, my tutoring business had evolved into a comprehensive academic support service, employing 6 fellow students as study group leaders and test prep instructors. The business not only covered my living expenses, but generated enough profit to start repaying some of my smaller loans early. Professor Williams nominated me for the prestigious Goldwater Scholarship, which covered my entire senior year tuition. "You've earned this through extraordinary effort," she told me when I received the award. "Your research contributions and academic excellence exemplify the very scientific spirit this scholarship was founded to support." For the first time since starting college, I felt the crushing weight of financial insecurity begin to lift. The future I had glimpsed in those books at Grandpa Henry's cabin was materializing through my own determined efforts. What I didn't realize was that my success story was becoming quietly famous within the science department. As I focused on surviving and thriving, seeds were being planted that would bloom in a most unexpected way at graduation. Senior year arrived with a momentum I could scarcely have imagined when I first stepped onto Northwestern's campus. My academic support business had grown to serve over 100 students per semester and employed 8 part-time tutors and teaching assistants. The business was featured in the university newspaper, bringing recognition and establishing my reputation beyond the science department. Meanwhile, my research with Professor Williams had led to a breakthrough in understanding drug resistance mechanisms. Our work was accepted for publication in a major biochemistry journal, with me listed as second author, an extraordinary achievement for an undergraduate. Professor Williams approached me in October with an unexpected opportunity: the National Science Foundation Undergraduate Research Competition is accepting entries, she said, sliding a brochure across her desk. The grand prize includes $25,000 in research funding and guaranteed admission to top graduate programs. I think your drug resistance work has a genuine shot at winning. With her mentorship, I spent weeks refining my research presentation and preparing for the rigorous judging process. After 4 rounds of increasingly competitive evaluation, I made it to the final round scheduled for March, just 2 months before graduation. Ironically, as my academic trajectory soared, Maya began experiencing her first real challenges. The theatre programme's demanding senior showcase requirements exposed gaps in her work ethic and preparation skills. Years of natural talent and parental support had left her ill-prepared for this level of artistic and professional scrutiny. 1. Evening in November, I received an unexpected call from Maya. "Sarah, I'm struggling," she confessed, her voice thick with tears. "My senior showcase is falling apart. The director says my character development is superficial, and I have 6 weeks to completely reimagine my performance or I might not graduate." Looking. At my sister's genuine distress, I felt conflicting emotions. Part of me, the hurt, resentful part, thought this was karmic justice for years of preferential treatment. But another part recognized this moment as an opportunity to rise above the pain of our past. "Come over," I said. "Let's work on it together." That night became the first of many sessions where I helped Maya approach her craft with the same analytical rigor I applied to science. Through helping her, I discovered that my years of systematic problem-solving and project management had given me skills Maya had never needed to develop. As we worked together, something unexpected happened. We began to really talk for perhaps the first time in our lives. "How do you manage everything so well?" Maya asked one night as we took a break from character analysis. "Your research, perfect grades, business, financial independence. I can barely handle my coursework with nothing else on my plate." I explained my punishing schedule, the financial pressures, and the constant calculations required to stay afloat. Maya listened with growing horror. "I had no idea," she whispered. "Mum and Dad always just said you were doing fine and enjoying your independence." "Fine is relative," I replied. "I've worked 60-hour weeks for 4 years while taking full course. Loads. I've gone without meals, proper sleep and any semblance of a social life, but it taught me that I'm capable of more than I ever imagined." "But why didn't you ever tell us how hard it was?" she asked. The question struck me as heartbreakingly naive. Would it have changed anything? Would Mum and Dad suddenly have decided I was worth investing in too? The conversation marked a turning point in our relationship. As Maya began to recognize the inequality that had shaped our lives, she became my unexpected ally. She started declining expensive parental gifts, explaining she preferred to manage independently like her sister. By January, our weekly study sessions had become a genuine connection. Maya's showcase was back on track, and she had begun to develop the discipline and analytical skills she'd always lacked. Meanwhile, my own senior project had attracted attention from the university administration. Dean Martinez, head of the College of Arts and Sciences, invited me to her office in February. "Your journey at Northwestern has been extraordinary," she began. "From financing your own education to conducting groundbreaking research while maintaining academic excellence, it's precisely the kind of success story we want to highlight." She explained that the university selected one exceptional student annually to deliver the commencement address. "We would like you to consider representing our graduates this year," she said. "Your story embodies the determination and intellectual curiosity we aim to instill in all our students. The opportunity to speak at graduation, to publicly claim my achievements before my parents and the entire university community, felt like the culmination of everything I had worked toward. I accepted immediately. What I didn't know was that Dean Martinez had more planned than just a student address. The details would remain confidential until the ceremony itself. As March approached, the NSF research competition became my focus. My presentation to the judges incorporated everything I had learned about resilience, methodical problem-solving, and finding opportunity within constraint. When the panel announced my victory, I felt a validation that transcended the prize money and recognition. I had transformed my greatest challenges into my competitive advantage. The university issued a press release about my win, featuring a photo of me accepting the award in the chemistry lab where I'd spent countless hours. I sent a copy to Grandpa Henry, who called me sobbing with pride. "I always knew you were brilliant," he said. "Now everyone else knows it too." My parents notably did not mention the article or the award. Their silence had long since ceased to surprise me. 2 weeks before graduation, our parents arrived in town to help Maya prepare. They rented a large hotel suite for the extended family coming to celebrate and planned an elaborate party for after the ceremony. I received a perfunctory invitation that made clear I was an afterthought. "We assumed you'd be busy with work," Mum explained when I mentioned being excluded from most of the family activities. "But you're welcome to join if you can make it." The dismissal stung, but less sharply than it once would have. My worth was no longer tied to their recognition. The day before graduation, Grandpa Henry arrived with a special gift, a vintage microscope that had belonged to his father, who had been a country doctor. "Wear this proudly tomorrow," he said, fastening a small charm to my graduation stole. "4 generations of healers in our family, and you're continuing the tradition." That evening, during the graduation rehearsal, Dean Martinez pulled me aside with a conspiratorial smile. "Everything is arranged for tomorrow," she said. "Just be prepared for some additional recognition before your speech." When I asked what she meant, she merely winked. Some surprises are worth waiting for. The morning of graduation dawned bright and clear, as if nature itself was celebrating with us. I woke early, unable to sleep through the mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. Today marked not just the completion of my degree, but the vindication of my chosen path. My phone chimed with a text from Maya. "Good morning, graduate. So proud to be walking with you today. Can't wait to see you speak." The simple message reflected how far our relationship had evolved. From distant siblings shaped by parental favoritism, we had found our way to something like genuine sisterhood. After a quick breakfast, I carefully dressed in the outfit I'd saved for months to afford. As I fastened Grandpa Henry's microscope charm to my graduation stole, I allowed myself a moment to truly feel the weight of this accomplishment. 4 years ago, my parents had deemed me unworthy of investment. Today I would graduate not just with highest honours, but with groundbreaking research, a successful business, and national recognition. The journey had been brutally difficult, but the woman who emerged was stronger than I could have imagined. Jessica insisted on driving me to campus. "Your chariot awaits, Dr. Thompson," she joked, but I could see the genuine pride in her eyes. The campus buzzed with activity as families, in their Sunday best, navigated between buildings, consulting maps and taking photos. At the student assembly area, graduates in black robes clustered together, adjusting caps and comparing honours cords. I spotted Maya instantly, her auburn hair visible even from a distance. She rushed over when she saw me, embracing me with unexpected emotion. "Can you believe we made it?" she asked, straightening my cap, "though you conquered the world while I barely scraped by." "We both made it our own way," I replied diplomatically. The ceremony proceeded with the expected speeches about future potential and the responsibility of education. I half listened, mentally rehearsing my upcoming address while managing the butterflies in my stomach. Finally, the moment arrived for the conferring of degrees. We rose by departments, crossing the stage to receive our diplomas and shake hands with university officials. When my name was called with summa cum laude designation, I heard Grandpa Henry's distinctive whistle cutting through the polite applause. Maya, returning to her seat, gave me a thumbs up as we passed each other. After the degrees were conferred, University President Harrison approached the podium again. Before we conclude today's ceremony, we have several special recognitions to present. First, I invite Sarah Thompson of the College of Arts and Sciences to deliver this year's commencement address. As I made my way to the stage, I caught a glimpse of my parents. For the first time that day, they were looking directly at me, confusion evident in their expressions. Clearly, they hadn't expected their less promising daughter to receive this honour. Taking the podium, I drew a deep breath and began. 4 years ago, I arrived at Northwestern with nothing but determination and the belief that education should be earned, not given. Today, I stand before you having worked 35 hours weekly while maintaining a full course load, conducting research that's advancing cancer treatment and graduating with highest honours. I spoke about resilience, about finding strength in adversity, and about redefining success on your own terms. Without directly mentioning my parents, I addressed the pain of being underestimated and the power of proving skeptics wrong. The greatest gift of my Northwestern education wasn't found in textbooks or laboratories. It was discovering that limitations placed upon us by others need not become our own limitations. Each of us has the capacity to transcend expectations and create our own definitions of success. As I concluded my speech to enthusiastic applause, President Harrison returned to the microphone. What happened next would forever change the dynamics of my family. Thank you, Ms. Thompson, for those inspiring words. And now I have the distinct pleasure of announcing several special recognitions that exemplify the excellence we strive for. At Northwestern. He paused dramatically, glancing down at his notes. First, the faculty of the College of Arts and Sciences has unanimously selected Sarah Thompson as this year's valedictorian, graduating with a perfect 4.0 GPA while simultaneously conducting groundbreaking cancer research and building a business now serving over 500 students annually. A murmur of appreciation rippled through the crowd. I stood frozen beside the podium, not having expected this public acknowledgement. Additionally, the president continued, Ms. Thompson is this year's winner of the National Science Foundation undergraduate research competition, bringing unprecedented recognition to our university's research program. The audience's applause grew stronger. I dared a glance toward my parents and saw their expressions shifting from confusion to shock. What many of you may not know, President Harrison went on, his voice carrying clearly through the silent auditorium, is that Ms. Thompson accomplished these extraordinary achievements while fully self-financing her education, working multiple jobs, and maintaining academic excellence without any family financial support. The revelation sent a visible ripple through the audience. Parents looked at each other with expressions ranging from disbelief to admiration. In recognition of her extraordinary journey, I am pleased to announce that Ms. Thompson has been accepted to Harvard Medical School with a full scholarship, and her research will be featured on the cover of next month's Journal of Biochemical Research. The audience erupted in a standing ovation. Through the thunderous applause, I watched as my parents' faces drained of colour, their expressions morphing from shock to something approaching horror as they realised everyone now knew they had refused to support the daughter being celebrated as the university's most outstanding graduate. Maya stood among the graduates, clapping wildly with tears streaming down her face. Grandpa Henry remained seated only because his arthritis made standing difficult, but his proud smile could have lit the entire auditorium. As the applause finally quieted, President Harrison made one final announcement. In honour of Ms. Thompson's extraordinary example, the University Board has established the Sarah Thompson Resilience Scholarship, providing full financial assistance to students demonstrating exceptional determination in overcoming obstacles to their education. The symbolic victory was complete. Not only had I succeeded despite my parents' lack of faith, but my name would be permanently associated with supporting others facing similar challenges. As I returned to my seat amidst continued applause, Maya grabbed my hand and squeezed it tightly. "You are amazing," she whispered fiercely. "And they were so wrong about you." The remainder of the ceremony passed in a blur. When it concluded, graduates scattered to find their families among the dispersing crowd. I saw my parents standing, awkwardly with Grandpa Henry, their usual confident postures replaced by uncomfortable stiffness. Several professors and classmates stopped me to offer congratulations, delaying my approach to the family gathering. When I finally reached them, my father attempted a jovial tone that rang hollowly against the tension. "Well, this was quite a surprise," he said, his smile not reaching his eyes. "You've been holding out on us, Sarah." The casual dismissal of all my hard work, as if I'd merely been keeping secrets rather than struggling while they ignored me, might once have devastated me. Now it barely registered. "Not at all," I replied coolly. "I've been exactly who I've always been. You just weren't paying attention." Before they could respond, Maya stepped forward and put her arm around my shoulders in a clear display of solidarity. "Everyone's talking about Sarah's achievements," she announced loudly enough for nearby families to hear. "Isn't it amazing how she managed all this without any support? I can't imagine how much more she could have accomplished if she'd had the same advantages I did." Our mother flinched visibly at the public acknowledgement of their favouritism. Nearby, our uncle and several other relatives watched the interaction with newly critical eyes. "Perhaps we should continue this conversation at home," Dad suggested tersely, clearly uncomfortable with the public scrutiny. "Actually," I replied, "I have a celebration with my research team and mentors this afternoon. They've been my real support system these past 4 years, and I wouldn't miss it for anything." Grandpa Henry stepped forward then, taking my hand, in his weathered one. "I'm coming with you," he declared. "I want to meet these wonderful people who recognised what your own parents couldn't see." The blunt statement hung in the air between us. For perhaps the first time, I saw genuine regret flash across my mother's face. "We're very proud of you, of course," she attempted weakly. "Thank you," I replied with dignified grace. "But I've learned that external validation isn't necessary for success. Today isn't about gaining your approval. It's about celebrating the journey I made without it." As Grandpa Henry and I turned to leave, Maya made a quick decision. "I'm coming too," she announced, stepping away from our parents to join us. The sight of their 2 daughters walking away, both having outgrown the constraints of their expectations in different ways, left my parents standing alone amidst the celebrating families, their carefully constructed narratives about their children visibly crumbling before the undeniable truth. The scene at the post-graduation celebration in the Science Building could not have been more different from the tense family interaction earlier. Professor Williams had arranged an elegant reception for faculty, outstanding graduates and research partners. "This is so different from the theatre reception," Maya whispered as we entered. "Everyone seems to genuinely know and respect each other." "The science department became my home," I explained. "These people really saw me when our parents couldn't." Jessica rushed over immediately, engulfing me in a tight hug before introducing herself to Grandpa Henry and Maya. I've heard so much about both of you, she said warmly. The supportive grandfather and the sister who finally woke up. Maya blushed, but accepted the gentle teasing good-naturedly. Better late than never, I hope. Dean Martinez approached next, champagne flutes in hand. The woman of the hour, she beamed, passing around the glasses. And this must be the grandfather, who believed in you from the beginning. As they chatted, I watched Maya observing this network of supporters I'd built, people who valued me for my actual accomplishments rather than some preconceived notion of potential. The contrast with our parents' conditional approval was stark. Ms. Thompson, called a distinguished woman in a sleek business suit approaching our group. Dr. Jennifer Chen, Director of Research at Boston Children's Hospital, your presentation at the NSF competition was extraordinary. I'm thrilled you've accepted our research fellowship offer. Thank you for the opportunity, I replied, shaking her hand firmly. I'm excited to join your pediatric oncology team. Dr. Chen smiled warmly. With your combination of academic excellence and practical resilience, you're exactly what we look for. Not many undergraduates have published first-author research while building a successful business from scratch. As she moved away to greet other guests, Maya's expression registered shock. You didn't tell me you'd be working at Boston Children's. That's one of the most prestigious research hospitals in the country. I smiled modestly. It happened quickly after the NSF competition. The fellowship covers my living expenses while I complete my master's research before medical school. The stipend is probably more than Dad makes, Maya said thoughtfully. The celebration continued with speeches from faculty and presentations of departmental awards. I received the Outstanding Research Award, presented by Professor Williams with tears in her eyes as she recounted my journey from determined freshman to published researcher and department star. Throughout the afternoon, I introduced Grandpa Henry to everyone who had supported me, professors who had mentored me, classmates who had become research partners, university staff who had helped me navigate financial challenges. Each greeting included the person sharing a specific memory of how I had impressed them or contributed to the department. I had no idea, Maya murmured after the 10th such introduction. All these people admire you so much. Midway through the reception, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom, the family is gathering at the hotel for dinner at 6. Please join us. We want to celebrate both our graduates. I showed the message to Maya and Grandpa Henry. What do you think, Grandpa? Grandpa snorted. A bit late to play the proud parents now, isn't it? Maya looked conflicted. They're trying, I guess, in their way. We don't have to decide right now, I said, pocketing my phone. Let's enjoy this moment first. As the reception wound down, Professor Williams approached with a campus photographer. The medical journal wants a photo of you with your family for the feature article. Are they here? The question created an awkward pause. My grandfather and sister are here, I replied carefully. My parents are elsewhere at the moment. Understanding dawned in her eyes. The family that matters is the one that supports you, she said kindly. Let's get a photo of you three. The photographer arranged us near the university's science building. Grandpa Henry beaming proudly with an arm around each granddaughter, Maya and me in our graduation regalia, my special research medallion prominently displayed. As we were leaving the reception, Dean Martinez handed me a business card. The admissions director at Johns Hopkins MD-PhD program asked me to give you this. They're very interested in discussing a full scholarship if you decide to pursue both degrees simultaneously. The opportunities continuing to unfold before me stood in stark contrast to what my parents had once envisioned, or failed to envision, for my future. Should we go to the family dinner? I asked as we walked to Jessica's car. Grandpa Henry took my hand. That decision is entirely yours, my dear. You owe them nothing. But, he added after a thoughtful pause, there might be value in allowing them to see exactly who you've become, not for their sake, but for yours. Maya nodded in agreement. Plus, I'd like to see Uncle Tom grill them about why they never mentioned your research or awards before today. Decision made, we drove to the hotel where extended family had gathered. Conversations hushed noticeably as we entered, then erupted in enthusiastic greetings as relatives rushed to congratulate both Maya and me. Mum appeared from the bar area, her earlier confident demeanour replaced by uncharacteristic nervousness. "Sarah, you came," she said, attempting a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We were just about to order dinner." Dad approached with forced joviality. "There are my successful daughters," he announced loudly, as if he'd been proudly proclaiming my achievements all along. "Sarah, why didn't you tell us about this big research fellowship?" The audacity of his question, after years of disinterest in my activities, momentarily stunned me into silence. Before I could respond, Uncle Tom interjected. "Probably because you haven't asked about her plans once in the past 4 years, Michael," he said bluntly. "At least not in any family gathering I've attended." An uncomfortable silence fell over the room, Dad's face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and anger. "We've always supported both our daughters," he insisted defensively. "Financially?" Aunt Linda asked innocently. "Because the university president seemed pretty clear about Sarah putting herself through school while conducting research." My mother jumped in quickly. "We had limited resources and had to make difficult choices. Sarah has always been very independent." "Independent by necessity, not by choice," Grandpa Henry corrected sharply. "Let's not rewrite history now that her success has become inconvenient to your narrative." The tension in the room was palpable. Cousins exchanged uncomfortable glances while my parents struggled to maintain their composure under this unexpected family scrutiny. Maya, surprising. Everyone spoke up clearly. "Mom, Dad, I think it's time to acknowledge the truth. You favoured me from childhood. You invested everything in me and nothing in Sarah. You were wrong about her potential, and today everyone saw that." Mum's eyes filled with tears, whether from genuine remorse or embarrassment at being called out so publicly was difficult to determine. "We never meant to," she began weakly. "Impact matters more than intent," I interjected calmly. "Your choices shaped my reality regardless of what you meant to do." Dad, unaccustomed to having his authority questioned, attempted to regain control of the situation. "This is hardly the time for family therapy. We're here to celebrate." "Yes," agreed Aunt Linda pointedly. "We're celebrating Sarah's extraordinary achievements accomplished entirely without your support. Rather remarkable topic for a family gathering, wouldn't you say?" The family dinner proceeded with strained conversation. My relatives, seeing me through new eyes, directed questions about my research and career plans. With each accomplishment I described, my parents' discomfort visibly increased as the magnitude of what they had dismissed became clearer. By the time dessert was served, the family dynamics had shifted noticeably. Where my parents had always been the authoritative centre of family gatherings, their judgment now stood questioned. The daughter they had deemed less worthy had proven herself exceptional by any objective measure, undermining their credibility entirely. As the evening concluded, relatives departed with warm congratulations and, in several cases, business cards and offers of professional connections. The extended family's recognition and support, though belated, felt genuinely validating. When only immediate family remained, Dad attempted a conciliatory gesture. "Sarah, your mother and I have been discussing, and we'd like to help you with moving expenses to Boston as a graduation gift." The offer, so small compared to 4 years of tuition they had provided Maya, would once have meant everything to me. Now it felt almost offensive in its inadequacy. "Thank you, but that won't be necessary," I replied evenly. "My fellowship includes a generous living stipend, plus I have savings from my tutoring business. My housing is quite secure." The implication that I was now financially independent and successful landed like a physical blow. Dad's expression cycled through shock, disbelief, and finally a grudging recognition that the daughter he had dismissed had surpassed his own achievements. "Well," he said finally, struggling to maintain composure, "you've certainly proven yourself capable." "Yes," I agreed simply. "I have. Not that I needed to prove anything to anyone but myself." As we prepared to leave, Maya pulled me aside. I'm staying with Grandpa Henry for a few days before moving to my apartment in Chicago. Would you want to join us? Like a mini family vacation with the family members who actually matter. The suggestion, so simple yet so profound in its reorganization of family bonds, brought unexpected tears to my eyes. I'd love that, I whispered. As we departed, leaving my parents standing uncertainly in the hotel lobby, I felt centuries of weightlifting from my shoulders. Their approval, so desperately sought for most of my life, had become irrelevant in the face of my own verified worth. The family I was choosing, Grandpa Henry, Maya, Jessica, my mentors and supporters, was the one that had seen my value all along. And that recognition meant infinitely more than belated acknowledgement from those who had refused to see until it became impossible to deny. The weeks following graduation brought a whirlwind of changes. I moved into a comfortable apartment near Boston Children's Hospital, using part of my NSF prize money for furnishings. My tutoring business continued operating under Jessica's management, now employing 12 students with fair wages and flexible schedules. Meanwhile, the Promise Journal feature was published, complete with the photo of Grandpa Henry, Maya and me at graduation. The article detailed my journey from self-financing freshman to award-winning researcher and fellowship recipient, positioning my story as an example of determination overcoming obstacles. I sent copies to Professor Williams, Dean Martinez, and everyone else who had supported me along the way. My relationship with my parents entered uncertain territory. 3 weeks after graduation, they requested a lunch meeting at a neutral restaurant location. The conversation was awkward, but represented their first genuine attempt to reconcile. We've done a lot of thinking, Mum began carefully, about the choices we made and the assumptions that guided them. Dad, less comfortable with emotional conversations, added stiffly, "We may have misjudged your potential and character." The understatement was almost comical given recent events, but I recognised that acknowledgement, however inadequate, represented significant movement for them. "Yes," I agreed simply. "You did. We'd like to try to repair our relationship," Mum continued. "If you're willing." I considered their request thoughtfully. The wounded child in me wanted to reject them outright, to inflict the same pain of dismissal I had felt for years. But the woman I had become recognised that continuing that cycle would only extend the damage. "I'm open to developing a new relationship," I said finally, "but it would need to be just that, new, built on who I actually am, not who you thought I was or wished I would be." "That seems fair," Dad conceded, his typical confidence notably subdued. "And it would require acknowledgement that what happened wasn't just a misunderstanding or unfortunate circumstance. It was favouritism that caused real harm." This requirement clearly made them uncomfortable, but after exchanging glances, they nodded. "We did favour Maya," Mum admitted quietly. "We saw her as the safer investment because she fit our expectations of success. We were wrong, and our mistake hurt you deeply. I'm truly sorry, Sarah." The genuine accountability, while imperfect, was more than I had expected. It opened a door to possible reconciliation, though the path forward would be neither quick nor easy. Over the summer, I began my research fellowship while maintaining regular contact with Maya and Grandpa Henry. Maya had secured an entry-level position with a children's theatre non-profit, a career choice seemingly influenced by her new awareness of privilege and opportunity gaps. "I keep thinking about how different our paths were," she confessed during one of our weekly sister dinners, "and how many other students face the obstacles you did, but without your exceptional drive to overcome them." Her growing social consciousness pleased me more than any apology could have. My sister was evolving beyond the golden child identity our parents had constructed for her, developing genuine empathy and purpose. By autumn, I had settled into a productive rhythm with my research, while preparing for medical school applications. My first fellowship review brought praise from senior researchers and an unexpected research grant extension. Financial security, that elusive condition I had chased for years, was finally mine. During a weekend visit to Grandpa Henry's cabin, he presented me with a small wooden box while we sat on his porch watching the sunset. "I've been saving this for the right moment," he explained. Inside was a delicate silver pendant shaped like a DNA helix. "This was given to me by my father when I finished medical school," he said. He told me it was a reminder that healing comes from understanding, not from others' expectations. I've held it all these years for a grandchild who would truly understand its significance. As he fastened it around my neck, he added, "Your journey has been harder than it should have been, Sarah. But the woman you've become through that struggle is extraordinary, in ways an easier path might never have revealed." His words crystallized something I had been feeling but struggling to articulate. While the unfairness I experienced wasn't justified, the strengths developed through that adversity had become integral to my identity and success. On the 1-year anniversary of graduation, I used a portion of my savings and research earnings to establish the first-generation college student research fund at Northwestern University. Unlike traditional scholarships focused solely on academic metrics, this fund specifically supported students demonstrating extraordinary determination in overcoming family or financial obstacles to pursue scientific research. The selection committee should consider not just where students are, but what they've overcome to get there, I instructed when finalising the endowment details. The first recipient, a young woman working 3 jobs while studying biochemistry and caring for her disabled mother, reminded me powerfully of myself. The difference was that now she would have the support I had lacked. My parents, gradually earning limited trust through consistent effort, attended the scholarship announcement ceremony. As they listened to my speech about creating opportunity, ladders for others to climb, I noticed something new in their expressions. Not just regret for past mistakes, but genuine pride untainted by comparison or condition. "You've created something meaningful," Dad acknowledged afterward, the closest he had come to expressing genuine admiration. Mom added more directly, "You've become someone who turns her own pain into purpose. That's rare and valuable." While these small recognitions mattered, I had learned perhaps the most important lesson of my journey. External validation, even from parents, was ultimately secondary to internal conviction. My worth hadn't changed when they finally acknowledged it. Their perception had simply caught up to the reality that had been there all along. Maya and I continued strengthening our authentic sisterhood, untangling it from the comparative framework our parents had created. During a Saturday hiking trip, she asked the question that had clearly been on her mind for some time. "Do you think you'll ever fully forgive them?" I considered this carefully as we reached a scenic overlook. "Forgiveness isn't a single decision," I replied finally. "It's an ongoing process of releasing the expectation that the past could have been different." "I don't think I'll ever forget being told I wasn't worth investing in," I continued honestly. "But I'm working toward not letting that moment define my relationship with them going forward. That's the forgiveness I'm capable of right now." Maya nodded thoughtfully. "For what it's worth, their greatest loss was not knowing who you really were all those years." As I looked out over the vast landscape below us, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. From the devastated teenager hearing, "She deserved it, but you didn't," to the accomplished researcher creating opportunities for others. The transformation wasn't just in my circumstances, but in my fundamental understanding of self-worth. The real victory wasn't proving my parents wrong, though that satisfaction was undeniable. The deeper triumph was discovering that their assessment had never actually defined me. I had always been capable, valuable, and worthy of investment. Their failure to see it reflected their limitations, not mine. Perhaps that's the most powerful realization for anyone who has been underestimated or dismissed. Your value exists independently of others' ability to recognize it. The opinions that limited you speak to the imagination deficits of others, not to your inherent potential. In the end, being underestimated became my greatest advantage. It forced me to develop resilience, self-reliance, and determination that served me long after the initial injury had healed. The very qualities my parents failed to nurture became the foundation of a success they couldn't have envisioned. Not because I wasn't capable from the beginning, but because their vision was too limited to encompass who I could become. As I write, today, I'm completing my MD PhD at Harvard. My research has led to 3 published papers in major journals, and I've been accepted into a pediatric oncology residency at Johns Hopkins. My tutoring business has evolved into a non-profit organisation that has helped over 2,000 students access higher education. More importantly, I've learned to define success on my own terms. It's not about proving anyone wrong or earning belated approval. It's about recognising your own worth, developing your gifts, and using both your struggles and strengths to make a positive impact on the world. My parents and I have developed a cautious but genuine relationship built on mutual respect, rather than hierarchy. Maya has become not just my sister, but one of my closest friends and strongest supporters. And Grandpa Henry, now 89, still calls me every Sunday to hear about my latest research. Have you ever been underestimated by someone whose opinion seemed to define your worth? How did you find the strength to prove them wrong, or more importantly, to prove your value to yourself? Remember, sometimes those who believe in you the least can motivate you the most. Not to earn their approval, but to discover just how far beyond their limited vision you can truly soar. Your potential isn't determined by others' investment in you. It's determined by your willingness to invest in yourself, even when, especially, when no one else will. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope my story inspires you to recognise your own inherent worth, regardless of who fails to see it. Because sometimes, the greatest gift is being forced to become your own champion.